I'm thinking about my research as kind of my last act of the day. And I find that because I'm integrating it into my daily life, it becomes less scary. I feel less like I haven't worked enough on my project and feeling that panic and paralysis. So that's the key, a little bit every day.
Now, I love Janet, these two suggestions that you've already shared about that, the notion of 1 hour a day and the power of 1 hour a day, and then the fact that even if your institution doesn't have a mentoring program, that you can just use your charm and essentially, make friends with your professional colleagues who are senior
Yeah,
to you, and have them uh, demystify um,
yeah.
the obligation. So that's just incredibly useful, and I can feel my own, uh, kind of worry and insecurity just pop off my shoulders by understanding those things. And there's another piece of advice that you've shared with me that I want you to share with our listeners, that
Yeah.
it seems like it can't be true. So they say this about legislation, and then you have said this about academia. You said, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good.
Mhm.
But you're talking about research here, and so that seems like that's impossible. Research must be perfect. If you don't publish something that's perfect, people are going to think that you're just a mediocre, researcher. And given the incredible amount of competition in journals and publishing in general, you can't get published if you're just good. So tell us more about that, Janet.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And it absolutely, because when you feel the pressure to be perfect, that can lead to paralysis and it can be terrifying because you feel like everything I do is the last word that is to be spoken and written on this subject. Nothing could be further from the truth. It truly. And I found that out again, mentoring was the key to helping me kind of thwart that fear and that expectation of perfection. One of my mentors, the late Paul Boyer, whom just fabulous, fabulous mentor at the University of Wisconsin, he and I were talking. I had just started at UT Austin. I was revising my dissertation into a book and, just getting everything moving along on that. And he was a very soft-spoken person. And he just said, well, Janet, the old advice is that books are essentially abandoned. And I'm paraphrasing here, but the idea being is that what you do in your book is not going to be the final word, that you are participating in a conversation, and that conversation is ongoing, that you are always building upon the conversations that came before you, and other people are going to build upon your work and your contribution to that conversation. And having that in mind totally liberated me because I realized that, yeah, it's not the end, that there are going to be people who are going to read what I write. I hope they read what I write, and that they're going to gain insights into their own research and their own writing, and they're going to contribute to that conversation. And so that's, I think, for me, the most liberating thing is that you always have limits on your time. You may have limits that your institution sets on you to finish something. And because of that, you have to make your peace with your eventual submission as a final product in the sense that it's going to be put into print. And then it will be out there participating in a conversation,
Mm.
and it'll
Yeah.
continue on.
I like that about, not having to be perfect. And because sometimes it can prolong you even moving forward if you're looking for that perfection. So I do like that. That's why Stella and I, we would go back and forth over our book, and every sentence and every period is like, okay, stick a fork and it's done. Because, it's like, this is it. This is it. It will never be published if we keep going back and forth, and it's never going to be perfect, but it's puts something out there that you're proud to say that, because your name is on it. So really like that. In addition to that, being an enemy, the need for perfection, um, I'm thinking about other enemies of our intellectual creativity and productivity. Sometimes it's something our own selves, our negative thoughts. Um, how do you control those negative thoughts? Sometimes it's not even your supervisor, your boss. It's thoughts sometimes we have in our mind, negative thoughts ourselves. you know,
Yes.
and that could stifle your research if you are those thoughts that go on in your mind, I can't do this, or I'm struggling, or nobody's going to want this information. How do you control those negative thoughts yourself?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That is such a great question. It is so key to, managing and, really answering in a way those and thoughts is a way to quell them. I think first and foremost, for myself, I have to accept the fact that they're going to be part of my process and not to get too freaked out or paralyzed by them. That because I have lived a while now on this earth, I feel like I will get through this. So there is a way in which, you know, I know that they're going to pass, and they do. But that sense that they won't pass is very, very real. So, what do I do when I'm feeling it most acutely? A lot of different things. One is that I will use that opportunity as a chance to brainstorm. So, I'll say, okay, I am locked in this cycle of really, really, really negative thinking. I am going to just step back. I'm not going to try to write something formal right now, or even as I'm researching, I'm going to step back and I'm going to just brainstorm. I'm going to just brainstorm my ideas. I'm going to just let the words flow onto a document. Or, you know what I might do too? And I do this too. I may write about it in a diary. Why am I feeling so rotten about this? What are these? And this is something that doesn't need to be seen by any other eyes except for mine, where I'm just unburdening my mind. And then there's a way in which that act of unburdening gives you control over those horrible, horrible thoughts. Okay, so that's one thing. Another strategy is to go take a walk, go out for a run, or some kind of just break from that act of sitting and feeling really bad about things. And then the other thing that happens to me is that I will wake up sometime usually between 2 and 4 o'clock in the morning, and my head will just be racing with those terrible thoughts. You're never going to finish this. It's not going to happen. No one cares. It's terrible. You're not being very efficient, blah, blah, blah. And so when that happens, usually what I'll do is that sometimes I can just go right back to sleep, but usually I can't. And then I start to feel bad because I know the next day I'm going to feel really bad because I'm too tired. So I'm going to be really inefficient. So it just compounds it. So what I do sometimes in those situations, I actually will get up, I'll bring my laptop to bed with me, and I'll just start writing. I'll just write a bit, and it might be terrible. But the funny thing is that in my most recent book that was published in 2016, it's funny to reread sections of the book because I'll see, like, I remember when I wrote that. That was at about 3 a.m.
It is, and it's
Yeah.
so
So
true. It is so true, you know. And those strategies, you know, I'm glad I'm not the only one that sometimes take my laptop to be
yeah.
and work out. I'm comfortable there. I'm sitting up. I got my pillow.
Right. And and then the beautiful thing is that eventually, sometimes this doesn't happen, but more often than not, the act of just doing something relaxes me. And so then I can close that laptop and go back to sleep.
Yeah, yeah. I love it. And I'm just, I cannot believe our time is almost up already. But
Oh my
what you
gosh.
just mentioned, those negative thoughts could impact anyone. And it's not, and
Yeah.
I love your strategies because that can help anyone, whether you're writing a book or negative thoughts about you on a new job or you want to go to a different job or, will I be successful in this career? Or it's just, your strategies really, going for a walk, relaxing, or just doing something in the middle of the night, and accepting that yes, those thoughts will enter our head, but it's how to come up with strategies to address it, So thank you. That can apply to any situation and anyone. So thank you for those.
Oh, you're
Yeah,
so welcome. Thank you.
yeah. Estelle, did you
Yeah, I appreciate that. So,
look it up?
yeah, so these have been, they're really strong tips and they're just so comforting. They're said in a way that's so comforting. And I do believe that our listeners will
Mhm.
adopt some of these tips and they'll be better for it.
Yay.
Um,
Great.
Great.
so yeah, so we really only have time for one last thing, and that's just, the ball is in your court. I don't know if there's anything, any other pearl of wisdom that you wanted to share. Um,
Yeah.
Now would be the time to do that.
Well, thank you. I would say one thing that I wanted to add to to the kind of the great is the enemy of the good and the whole perfection problem is that, sometimes what happens is that because of time, you only have time for certain things to get done in a particular piece or whatever the thing you're doing. But maybe there's something that you really want to develop in greater detail. Guess what? That's the next project.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
you know? And so there's a way in which it's like you just hold on to things. They
Mhm.
will always be valuable in the
Mhm.
sense that no labor is really wasted, in my opinion, because I feel like I learn something from everything I do, even an experience that might be really unpleasant at the time.
Yes.
It does result in something hard earned called wisdom.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's always, I think, also always a process. And I think that, realizing that life itself is
Mhm.
process, that, research and time management is always ongoing. And so that to me is also very liberating.
Mhm. Well, you definitely inspired me to think about writing another book because I told Estelle we put so much into the book we wrote. I was like, I don't know, but talking with you today and the process and the strategies and the tips and suggestions, if Estelle is willing, I'd be willing to do part two of our book one day.